Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, what did I tell you last week about Bryan Kohberger and his new mugshot? Yep, the women are going crazy for him. The defense wants to visit the crime scene in the Delphi murder trial. A sheriff is arrested for an accidental discharge of his firearm into his girlfriend's forehead. Cases solved in Vermont triple murder, according to the police there. The Mississippi 15-year-old girl, she was found guilty of adult crimes and, well, she's received an adult punishment. The Supreme Court gets to see if they got the true threat case law correct, since 6 of the justices are now victims. We have an interesting story in the This Day in Legal History, and our dumb criminal of the day is so bold, he goes international. Let's talk about it.
Hi, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And remember, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Before we get to the docket today, please go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you will immediately be able to do a background search on anyone here in the United States. Literally, the report is prepared while you wait. After being asked just a couple of questions, you type in a name and you're going to get results. And you're going to get information as to whether somebody has a criminal history. Do they have to put themselves on one of those public registries you hear so much about? Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have civil judgments against them? You're going to be surprised what you can find out. You can even find out what kind of car they drive and own. All right. If somebody new is coming into your life, you need to check them out. A simple Google search is not enough. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. All right. Let's go ahead and open the record for September 23rd, 2024. And first on the docket, yes, the case of Bryan Kohberger. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we'll give Bryan Kohberger the presumption of innocence, for those 4 murder counts and 1 burglary count. But he has got some twisted fans who are infatuated by this guy, and I just don't get it. It has descended into a frenzy after his new mugshot was published last week. Yep, check it out. His mugshot, that's supporting the tizzy, which makes the fans of the alleged quadruple murderer give their seal of approval. Now, as we know, Bryan Kohberger is accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in 2022. Here we are. We're still waiting. But maybe next summer we're going to have a trial. So anyway, as you know, if you've been following this program, the change of venue was granted and Kohberger was moved from Latah County to Ada County. And he got a private ride because, hey, that's who he is, Bryan Kohberger. He doesn't just get a back of a white creeper van going across the interstate. No. He gets to fly on the state of Idaho Police Department's King Air because, like I said, that's who he is. Anyway, he was transferred into the Ada County Jail last week. And, of course, when you get booked in, you get a new mugshot. And, of course, who wanted it? Everybody. And so it has now been published. And yes, everyone is going crazy about it. Who would have thought? Anyway, so apparently this mugshot with his unkept beard, stubble, I don't know, he looks like he's homeless to me, and his bloodshot eyes here. Anyway, but there are actually Facebook groups set up to support Bryan Kohberger, who has a horde of female fans and have since come to his defense and praised how good looking he looks in his mugshot. One Facebook person, user, I guess, described him as hot. He looks like a movie star. That scruff is so good looking on him, a second woman added. I know, can't make this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. A third person questioned, is this real? He looks handsome. Another wrote, he looks like he's been on holiday. Relaxed, calm, and well looked after. One Facebook user noted, I'm not seeing any stress. In another group called Justice for Bryan Kohberger, one person claimed, he has no murderous eyes, man, because I do believe, old chap, that he is innocent. Now, Bryan Kohberger has already got quite a fan following, which once again just never seems to blow my mind. Anyway, apparently at the jail, he's received handwritten love letters, in colored envelopes while he's been in custody in Latah County. People at the jail in Ada County have not said if he's been receiving anything, but many people that work in the jail find it quite disturbing. Apparently, he gets these letters a couple times a week. They're usually handwritten with hearts and stars on these colored envelopes, according to the correctional officers. And everyone in the jail apparently talks about how weird that is. Now, it's unclear what the letters say, but it appears from many they are from people who believe that he is innocent, or they are confessing their love for Bryan Kohberger. One lady by the name of Brittany Highslope, who's apparently a single mom from Kentucky, penned a love letter and sent revealing photos to Mr. Kohberger. Now, Highslope called Kohberger her divine masculine counterpart and twin flame, and would often express her infatuation with him on her own Facebook page. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we'll give Kohberger the presumption of innocence. I think he's got really competent counsel. I think he's probably going to be convicted, but I think the prosecution has an opportunity to blow it pretty badly based upon everything that I have seen thus far. We'll have to wait and see. We got to wait and see, right? We don't have a crystal ball, but we're going to have to wait and see what takes place. But we've talked about this before. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. All of the hardworking men out there, masculine men, according to what one lady was looking for, they have jobs. They go to work on a daily basis. They're responsible. They don't beat women. They don't go home drunk and beat their wives. A lot of good guys out there that can't find dates because women are spending their time and effort trying to date some dude that is probably going to spend the rest of his life in prison. I get it. If it's your soulmate, it is what it is. But why would you look for somebody in prison, be the person you think you want to spend the rest of your life with? Because in reality, you're not. Just something to think about. Next, the Delphi case. The defense attorneys want to take a little trip to the crime scene. That's right. Defense attorneys for the Delphi murder suspect Richard Allen want jurors to go see the crime scene firsthand to get a better feel as to their timeline. Now, in a motion that was filed today in the Carroll County Circuit Court, Allen's defense team asked the court that impaneled jurors be transported to the Freedom Bridge, there on the Monon High Bridge, and to the site where the bodies of the victims were located, as well as the site of the old CPS building where the prosecution claims Richard Allen's vehicle was parked between 1:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. on February 13th of 2017. In the motion, the defense requests say that a jury would greatly be aided to understand the evidence presented at trial, including observing the feeling, the unique topography, and the land, something that cannot be understood from photographs and videos that are going to be presented at the trial. The defense wants the jurors to walk the trail from the Freedom Bridge and the Monon High Bridge and see where the girls were abducted. The defense argued that the locations are less than 2 miles from the courthouse, and the defense estimation that the transportation and viewing could take less than about an hour and a half. And don't worry, if there's security issues, the defense attorneys are saying, Mr. Allen, he doesn't need to go there because, hey, after all, he knows what it's like. He put himself there on that fateful day. And if it wasn't for the FBI contract employee that misfiled his statement, they maybe would have potentially had a suspect earlier on in this case. So he doesn't need to go. He's been there already. He likes to just go walk around by himself on this trail. We'll see. Anyway, Mr. Allen's trial will begin jury selection in Allen County, and then once the jurors are selected, they'll be transported down to Carroll County for the trial, and that trial is slated to last a month. It may take a little less time simply for the fact that the defense alternate suspect theory has essentially been shut down by the judge, Francis C. Gull, in this particular case, and defense may not have a whole lot to contend with. A lot of it's going to be the numerous alleged confessions that Mr. Allen made to his wife, his mother, as well as people that work at the prison where he was being held for pre-sentence confinement, as well as inmates at the jail who were told to watch and listen at the doors to anything was said. So they too may be brought in. And the gun evidence, somewhat weak, but the confessions are always a problem. Trust me, confessions are a problem to any defense attorney. Next on the docket, yes, a former sheriff's deputy accidentally discharges a bullet into his girlfriend's forehead. That's right. A former Marion County Sheriff's Office deputy has been charged with the death of his living girlfriend and made his first appearance in court Saturday, just over the weekend. Anyway, the defense attorney, a guy by the name of Jimmy Sparrow, stood behind the somber-looking Leslie Dale Boulot, who was handcuffed and wearing a yellow jumpsuit jail uniform inside the county jail. Not a good look for deputies. Anyway, he was arrested Friday morning, and Boulot was being held without bond. Well, the judge in the case was there along with the prosecutors, and the judge told Boulot and his attorney that she found probable cause for the arrest. That's what takes place at a first advisement. What you're being held for, the judge finds probable cause, and they set a bond. So then the defense attorney went to work and asked the judge to set a reasonable bail amount, telling her that her client is not a flight risk. He's not going anywhere. He lives right here in the county. He was a public servant up until just a few days ago. And obviously this is nothing more than a tragic accident. And then the defense attorney asked for a $25,000 bond. And the attorney would like him out so that he could, in fact, come and assist his attorney with his defense. However, the prosecutor said that although the former deputy has no criminal history, he's quite concerned about community safety, and he thought the bond should be set at no less than $50,000. Needless to say, the defense attorney objected and said, "No, did you not hear my argument?" Anyway, the judge, doing what judges normally do, that's right, they split the baby. The judge set the bond at $30,000. Guess what? He can't have any guns and can't have any contact with the victim's family. His next court date is set for an arraignment in October. Now, what we do know is that the former sheriff's deputy was taken into custody on Friday afternoon for the death of his girlfriend, Paulina Wright. Mr. Balaloo told investigators the shooting was an accidental discharge, and he described the events leading up to Wright's shooting to the detectives in two separate interviews that he gave. From the interviews, what we know is Baloo said he was cleaning the guns and he and Wright were pointing them at each other. He said that they had had dinner and drinks at a Mexican restaurant, and then they went home, and inside the residence, he knew what he was doing was wrong because he's a trained professional, a highly trained professional, familiar with firearms. Anyway, Wright apparently was shot in the head when Baloo pointed the rifle at her, pulled the trigger, and a bullet came out of the firearm. That's the way things are supposed to work. Now, the now former sheriff deputy called 911, and when the police officers arrived, he told them his girlfriend wanted him to teach her how to use the guns. He told the officers, quote, "I know this looks really bad, and I did not want this to happen," end quote. Now, neighbors have stated that they've never heard any arguments or fights between the former deputy and his girlfriend. But after his arrest, Mr. Balaloo was notified about his firing for violating the sheriff's office directive for any action which results or could result in embarrassment or discredit to the agency, and it may cause punitive or non-punitive disciplinary actions. Kill your girlfriend as a sheriff deputy, you can be forced to resign because, yes, that's a little embarrassing to the police department, ladies and gentlemen. And I've told you in the past that hiring a hitman plots never work. I think we had one last week that was the closest we ever got to it, but normally it doesn't work because usually the person on the other side is a police officer. Well, let's venture on down to old Knoxville, Tennessee, where a Knoxville, Tennessee woman was accused of hiring an online hitman to kill the wife of a man that she had met on Match.com back in 2023. Now, this is all according to the indictment. Now, she has since been sentenced, according to the United States Department of Justice. Melody Sasser was accused by the United States Department of Homeland Security, Special Agent Gregory Martin, of paying almost $10,000 online killers market to hire a hitman for a job. Now, the website, according to the filing, offers hitmen for hire services as well as hacking, kidnapping, extortion, disfigurement by acid attack, and sexual violence. Screenshots in the Court records show that Sasser, under the username CatTree, messaged a website administrator about hiring someone to do a job, offering $9,750 in payment through Bitcoin. Now, the screenshot shows Sasser telling the administrator it needs to seem random, almost like it was an accident, or plant drugs, and she does not want a lengthy investigation. She recently moved with her new husband, so she's got to get the ball rolling on this thing. Now, according to the pleadings, Sasser also provided work and home addresses, license plate numbers, and other details about the target of the alleged hit. Well, and guess what? The subject of the alleged hit, only identified as JW, lives in Prattville, Alabama, where her husband, who Sasser reportedly met on Match.com, also lived at the time. The filing said that Sasser and JW's husband, DW, hiked together in the Knoxville area before he moved to Alabama and married JW. The filings also said that Sasser had left threatening voicemails on JW's phone using a device to disguise her voice. Now, the Birmingham, Alabama police also spoke with JW and DW when law enforcement discovered what might be taking place. In interviews, DW said he met Sasser on Match.com and she helped him with a hike along the Appalachian Trail. He also said Sasser is an employee for Pilot in Knoxville, which law enforcement said they had confirmed. And according to Pilot officials, she has since been let go of her position. That's like a truck stop convenience store. Anyway, DW identified Sasser as a possible suspect due to her voicemails left on JW's phone. Also, according to the filings in federal court, Sasser spoke with an online killer's market administrator over 2 months, complaining about what's taken so long to get this job done. Some of her exact quotes were, quote, "I have waited for 2 months and 11 days and the job is not complete. 2 weeks ago, you said it had been worked on and would be done in a week. The job is still not done. Does it need to be assigned to someone else? Will it be done? What is the delay? When will this be done?" CatTree said in the message to the administrator, end quote. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Try not to be a Karen asking for the manager on a hit job. Seriously? Anyway, Sasser was also reportedly able to track JW and DW by using an app called Strava, which connects to Garmin's watches to share fitness data. She even told the online killer's market administrators when JW had gone on a 2-mile walk. Now, the filing said the exchange happened between January 1st of 2023 and April 27th of 2023. And then on June 7th of 2023, a federal grand jury indicted Sasser for use of interstate commerce facilities, a phone, some sort of internet line, in the commission of the murder for hire. Remember, you got to have the interstate commerce to get it to the feds, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, Wednesday, the department announced that Sasser had entered a plea of guilty where she will spend the next 100 months behind bars in order to pay $5,000 in restitution. But what they always really forget is that $100 special assessment fee for each charge where the defendant pleads guilty, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. All the restitution, they'll deal with that down the road. But by God, that $100 special assessment fee, they will come after you with the dogs to get that. So, Miss Sasser, I hope you saved your pennies. You didn't pay the $9,750 in Bitcoin, so at least you got that going for you. Next, we brought you the story last week about the Vermont killing. Well, guess what? The police say case is solved. Police say they solved the mysterious triple homicide that happened last Sunday morning in a small Vermont town called Paulette. It turned out that Bryan Crossman Jr. was allegedly the shooter who killed his father, Bryan Crossman, his stepmother, Erica Crossman, and his stepbrother, Colin Taft, who was only 13 years old. All this took place back on September 15th. Now, the defendant was a resident of New York, had an initial appearance in Warren County on Friday, and faces extradition to Vermont, where he is charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder. Now, police previously told reporters that someone who they did not identify led them to the crime scene. The person just happened to be covered in blood. No arrests were made at that time, and now they claimed that that was Mr. Crossman Jr. Now, originally, police stated that shortly after 4 a.m. on Sunday, September 15th, Crossman Jr. contacted police and that he claimed that he had gone out for a walk earlier, only to return to the scene of the triple homicide, where, once again, Crossman Sr. and his new wife and stepson were all found dead. Now, the Crossman Sr. Had just married his new wife in July. Sometimes you got to work a little harder to, bring those families together, mesh those new families together, I guess. Anyway, Crossman's Jr., when he was contacted by the police, were stained with blood and was driving his father's truck when he met police. Police said they determined that at least 2 shotguns had been used in the killing and that these had been stored in a gun room in the father's home. Now, the defendant's grandmother said that the Crossman Jr. kid had a long history of mental health challenges, but the grandmother also attributed these issues to Crossman Jr.'s troubled relationship with his father. She also said that her grandson was very proficient with firearms. Doesn't look like grandma's coming to his aid at all. Yeah, he had lots of issues with his dad. So the younger Crossman shoots dad, new stepmom, and stepbrother. That's some issues. And just because you got some issues with, divorce doesn't mean you got license to go kill people, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, remember the story we brought you about Carly Gregg, that 15-year-old from Mississippi, accused of killing his mom and trying to kill her stepdad? A lot of parent killing going on lately. Anyway, Carly Gregg, who's now 15 but was only 14 when she was charged with murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence for the shooting of her mother, Ashley Smiley, and her stepfather, Heath Smiley. Well, guess what? It didn't take the jury long. In fact, it only took them 2 hours to find her guilty on all counts, and then the judge said, hey, let's move along to the sentencing phase of the trial. Well, that jury took less than an hour to return a decision that Miss Gregg is to spend the rest of her life in prison. And that's what the judge did. Life in prison for the murder and attempted murder, plus 10 years for the tampering of evidence. Now, prosecutors had alleged and now proven that back on March 19th of 2024, Gregg shot her mother in the neck, killing her. At a preliminary hearing, a detective testified that video inside the home showed Miss Gregg playing with her dog after the shooting like no big deal. Then Gregg allegedly texted her friend, who was identified only by initials BW because she's a minor, saying that she had an emergency and needed her to come over and help. And when she got there, asked if you ever seen a dead body. When the friend said no, Gregg proceeded to show her friend her mom's body. Gregg allegedly told the friend to wait outside because her stepfather was about to come home and, well, he's next. Well, when Heath arrived, BW heard 3 gunshots before Gregg ran out of the house. Heath told officers he was able to wrestle the gun away from his stepdaughter, and that's when Miss Gregg was ultimately taken into custody, approximately half a mile away from the house because she fled. Gregg turned down a plea agreement offered by the prosecution that would have set her free after 40 years. No. Like I said, now she's got prison with no chance of parole. Gregg's defense team argued that she was insane at her trial and retained an expert who testified that she suffered from severe undiagnosed mental illness. And at her preliminary hearing, her attorney described her as an exceptional student who had skipped the 4th grade and had no history of violence. That's one of the toughest jobs an attorney has to do. Tell the client, who in this case, hasn't even been alive longer than the opportunity of 40 years in prison, but you have light at the end of the tunnel. You could get out someday versus life without the possibility of parole. I've had that conversation more times than I can possibly imagine. And it is a scary thing to think about. What do you do? But I didn't do it. Or there's mitigating circumstances. But do you go and risk it? It's scary stuff. I've had cases where it's turned out really well. I had a case where it didn't turn out so well. Client turned down a sweet deal, like in the teens. Went to trial, was found guilty of a lesser charge, he was found not guilty of first-degree murder, but they also filed habitual counts, and he got 96 years. Now, that case got reversed on appeal, and we were able to get the teen sentence result, 12 years, but 13 years, but, took 7 years to get that done. Tough thing to do. I think I would have told, based upon what I know about that case, to tell Miss Gregg to take the 40 years. All right, we talk a lot about true threats. A true threat is a subjective belief that the person making a threat to another would in fact put them in fear. Okay, not an objective threat, because the Supreme Court said it's got to be subjective. The person making the threat has to know that that's their intent to put the person in fear based upon the language. Well, guess what? The Supreme Court may get to decide to see if that's the correct legal standard. Why, you say? Well, because an Alaska man was arrested for threatening messages to justices, 6 to be in fact. Well, this all took place last Wednesday after he was indicted on charges of threatening to kill and injure 6 Supreme Court justices and 2 of their family members, according to the Department of Justice in an indictment that was announced. So apparently, over a 16-month period between March of 2023 and July of 2024, this guy, I'm going to probably mispronounce his name, but it's Panos, P-A-N-O-S, and then Anastasia, A-N-A-S-T-A-S-I-O-U, common pronunciation. Anastasia allegedly sent more than 465 messages through the Supreme Court's website. So beginning in early January of this year, he began to send some threatening messages to the justices and their family members who are not identified in the indictment. Those messages, according to the indictment, contained violent, racist, and homophobic rhetoric, coupled with threats of assassination via torture, hanging, and firearms, and encouraged others to participate in these alleged acts of violence. Now, of course, the Attorney General's office denounced the threats, saying that these threats threaten democracy and the court systems, and we won't stand for it. So in the wake of the May 2022 leak of the draft opinion of the Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, Attorney General Garland announced that he has increased security at the justice's home. And in 2020, a California man was also charged with attempted murder of a Supreme Court justice after he was arrested near the Maryland home of Brett Kavanaugh. A trial in the case is scheduled to begin in June of 2025. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I guess my big issue in this case is if these threats have been going on for so long, what took the Justice Department so long? You have 6 justices that are being threatened. They take them seriously. They should. The man's apparently putting his name on it. That's when you got to worry, right? The anonymous people, you don't need to worry about, okay? And I may have represented a client or two that maybe threatened a judge over the years. You don't have to worry about the guy that does it anonymously. No, be worried about the guys that sign their names, okay? Now, over the years, for reasons that I cannot find it in my recollection, what we ever did or said anything, but we have actually received death threats here at CrimeTalk. Can you believe that? Now, I get it when I get a death threat or a phone message left. How could you represent that person? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. But me, harmless little fuzzball, just giving you the analysis of the legal news of the day, people want to harm me? I don't get it. I just don't get it. All right, next. A lot of violence going on today, I guess, isn't it? Next, this day in legal history. On September 23rd, today, in 1901, Leon Czolgosz was put on trial for the assassination of U.S. President William McKinley at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. So this is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Now keep track of the dates, okay? Trial begins on September 23rd, 1901. The shooting of the president took place on September 5th, 1901. Look at that short amount of time, ladies and gentlemen. Short amount of time. Couple of weeks. So on September 5th of 1901, Leon Czolgosz unsuccessfully sought an opportunity to assassinate President McKinley at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. His second attempt on September 6th was successful. At the Temple of Music, while McKinley was in a greeting line, Leon Czolgosz fired 2 shots into the president. Now, Czolgosz was wrestled to the ground by an exposition attendee and a waiter by the name of James Parker, who was credited with having prevented Czolgosz from firing a 3rd round. Now, soldiers of the U.S. artillery descended upon Czolgosz and began to beat him from where he lay wounded. Now, President McKinley was heard to have said, "Go easy on him, boys." Now, at the police headquarters, the assassin was interrogated by the district attorney, Thomas Penny. Czolgosz confessed that he killed the president because I killed President McKinley because I'd done my duty. I didn't believe one man should have so much service and another man should have none. Well, surgery was performed on President McKinley by a Dr. Matthew Mann. Now, the operation began at 5:20, just 1 hour and 20 minutes after the president was shot. The highly regarded surgeon, a guy by the name of Roswell Park, was unavailable, so Mann, who was actually an obstetrician and a gynecologist, performed the operation on the president. And then on September 14th, 1901, President McKinley died of gangrene at the home of John G. Milburn. He was the president of the Pan American Exposition. After final funeral services in Washington, D.C. on September 17th, McKinley's body was returned to his home in Canton, Ohio, and entombed at the West Lawn Cemetery. By the time the body had been laid to rest, the Erie County Bar Association had assigned 2 defense attorneys to what they termed the distasteful task of providing counsel to the assassin. Members of the local bar who were involved with the trial were presiding judge Truman C. White and District Attorney Thomas Penny. Well, the defense attorneys were Lauren Lewis and Robert Titus. Now, the jury reached a verdict in little more than 30 minutes. And then on September 26, 1901 at 2 p.m., Judge White sentenced Leon Zolgas to death by electric chair at the Auburn State Prison. He was executed on October 29, 1901, and the assassination of President McKinley by an avowed anarchist only compounded Americans' fears, stirred by such recent events as the assassination of King Umberto of Italy and Empress Elizabeth of Austria, and the Haymarket and the Homestead riots in the United States. The focus of this fear was that the anarchist movement and the relationship of this ideology to immigrants. State and federal legislation began to target anarchists. The bill is being introduced almost immediately to express avowed anarchists from the country and to prohibit their entry into the United States from other countries. One of the statutes was the Alien Immigration Act of 1903. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now you know the rest of the story. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. I'm sure you all know, I know some people that do fantasy sports. They're fanatics. So let me think this through. We are getting involved and acting like we are the owner of a professional football team about players that we don't know or interact with. We don't actually coach, but somehow we have a determination as to when we win. Hey, if that's how you want to spend your spare time, knock yourself out. Which brings us to our dumb criminal of the day, who is in week 4 of his fantasy football season. And if anyone in your league is taking things a little too seriously, to the point where they start making international threats, you might want to find a new league to participate in. So we have a 25-year-old man from Philadelphia that goes by the name of Matthew Gabriel. Well, he pled guilty to 2 counts of interstate and foreign threats after he made false tips to police in the United States as well as overseas, claiming that his rival, that's right, his rival in fantasy football, was a threat. So it all started last year when the 2 men had some kind of fantasy football argument in a chat. It's unclear if it was somewhat heated banter that got out of hand or if they were hotly debating a waiver pickup or something. Who knows? Anyway, Matthews knew the other guy from studying abroad in Norway, so he called the authorities there and made an anonymous tip that his rival was planning a mass shooting at a concert and at a department store. Well, Norway took it quite seriously, and they spent some 900 hours of police manpower investigating the case, only to realize it was just a big hoax. Well, during that month-long investigation in Norway, guess what? This Matthew guy did it again. This time, he emailed another fictitious threat, this time to the University of Iowa, and in an account under another name, he claimed the same fantasy football group member was threatening to blow up the school. Needless to say, the FBI was brought in to investigate, and, well, Matthew was eventually charged. He's scheduled to be sentenced in January after his plea of making terroristic threats, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes you just can't take everything so seriously. All right, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. And remember, the Constitution matters.